Good morning again, everyone. It's nice to finally be able to see some faces. I see some people are still joining, but Julia Noordegraaf is already here, and she will be our first speaker in this session. So I'm happy to see that but you can already start screen sharing if you like. And I'll take 30 seconds to explain a bit how this session will work. We will have sort of lightning talks, lightning presentations by 3 different local time machine projects, a bit on the background of their LTMs, and then we will move into a panel discussion. We have some questions ready, but we are very welcome to, you're very welcome to also ask questions to our speakers and panelists on this topic. I'd just like to leave the floor to Julia, please.
Thank you, Ilaria. Welcome, everyone. I'm now looking at the way to hide my controls. Yeah. So the Amsterdam Time Machine, as we say on our website, is a public research resource on the history of Amsterdam. So we want to make available data on the history of the city, the tools to visualize those data or to search in them and navigate them. We, in the end, of course, want to also make 3D visualizations to navigate the city. How did it all start? Well, we, in about 2016, when we learned about the Venice time machine, we realized, oh, but we have so many data on the history of Amsterdam, we can actually also build something similar here. Because we had already 400 years of digitized newspaper content.
Yeah, sorry, I'll just stop you because we see a white screen, or at least that's what I see.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so maybe
it's gonna share
the wrong one.
Is this better?
Yes, now we see it. Thank you.
Apologies, this was the first one, our website.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of data on the history of Amsterdam. In addition to newspaper content, there were the short title catalogue of the Netherlands, so all the books. We had a research database, a Cartico, on the art market of the 17th century Amsterdam. We had data on 19th century intellectual networks from the study platform for interlocking nationalisms. We had a big cinema database, and we had the Theatre Institute collection at the university. So we thought all of this together gives us a very rich database for a research program on the history of Amsterdam, in particular as a creative city. So in 2014 already, we took all this data and started a program on the history of performing arts, digital history more generally, and the Amsterdam Time Machine as of 2017. When I say we, it's not the University of Amsterdam by itself. There are a lot of partners. So we have a lot of partners in other knowledge institutes, universities, but also research infrastructures like the CLARIA, National Infrastructure for Digital Humanities Research. We have partners in the field of cultural heritage, ranging from national, like the Cultural Heritage Agency, to local partners and regional ones. Then we have partners in the field of the creative industries. These are small, medium enterprises or single freelancers who take an interest, who do work for the cultural heritage sector in the area of digital heritage, and who really follow us and take part in our data sprints, etc. We also collaborate with the municipality of Amsterdam and NGOs such as In Mijn Buurt, which do educational projects related to the history of newcomers to Amsterdam, history of Second World War and colonial past. And of course, we have a lot of local Dutch time machines. I saw some of you yesterday and today again. with whom we also collaborate in workshops and seminars. Oops. And then, of course, we're part of the European network. The ATM in numbers, we function primarily as a network of projects that find each other in seminars, data sprints, hackathons, conferences and workshops. And we have a coordination team of 3 people, myself, Ilaria, and Melvin Wevers, the assistant professor in digital history. And we have by now 12 projects totaling to 15 million euro of project budgets, on which 78 researchers and other collaborators are involved. And in the broader Dutch context, we have in total 10 local time machine projects now, local time machines now, based on in total 18 projects. Well, where are we? We worked a lot on the geographical infrastructure. So we have location points to which we can anchor or connect all these data. For 19th and early 20th century Amsterdam, there is now funding for a project for the city archives to go back in time to 17th, 18th century Amsterdam. We have historical map tiles. We have a broad variety of data, which for a large part also is available as linked open data. We have 3D models of individual houses or spaces in Amsterdam. And we're currently looking at sustaining all of this work in a program together with our network partners to make it a multi-year program to realize the actual sustainable infrastructure for the Amsterdam Time Machine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julia, also for keeping this presentation really brief so that we can really have the time for the discussion. Well, now as a second presenter, I would like to invite András Sipos from the Budapest archives and Budapest Time Machine to give a brief presentation about the Budapest Time Machine indeed.
Welcome, everybody. Do you see my screen, my
Yes.
presentation?
Yes, we see it.
Okay. Budapest Time Machine came into existence with the cooperation of 3 decisive cooperating partners: Budapest City Archives, Arcanum Limited, Arcanum Database Limited firm, who developed it and operates it to the order of Budapest City Archives. This project was financed by the National Cultural Fund of Hungary, and it is an integral part of Hungaricana, Hungarian Cultural Heritage Portal, which is a joint portal for archives, libraries, and museums with more than 100 content providers. It is a collecting portal for digital content digitized by the projects in the framework of projects funded by the National Cultural Fund, and the creation of this portal itself was funded with this national fund. Why we decided to initiate a time machine in 2000, just like in 2016 as in Amsterdam. We started building of databases of mass records in archives since about 2002. We recorded with standardized recorded data types from different types of records, standard data types, the same types of data from notarial records until architectural plan and land registry files. And one of these important standardized data was the address of the participants of the recorded cases, so that's topographical data, and of course address from the time of the creation of the records, and in the case of architectural plans and land registry records, the current, so today's property plot numbers. So we had a mass of topographical data. And on the other hand, we digitized the decisive part of our map collection, made it georeferenced, and owing to this, when the internationally well-known Mappire portal, the historical map portal of Arcanum was launched in 2014. Budapest City Archives was a big content provider, the biggest collection of city maps, our most basic and more detailed cadastral maps from the 18th century to the second half of the 20th century. And the above mentioned Hungaricana cultural heritage portal was launched in 2015, when we had already lots of records and digitized descriptive records and images of digitized records published. So we had already georeferenced maps online, a huge mass of digitized sources and descriptive records with topographical data online. So a logical next step was to connect these, and this project was to create the Time Machine online platform, which is an integral part of the Hungaricana, to create vectorized maps for different time layers, and connect the sources which were already online in the Hungaricana database. The types, with bold you can see the types of records in our Hungaricana database which are already connected to Time Machine. This means that the basic idea is to make them accessible not only by queries, we can say traditional queries as otherwise in Hungaricana, but also by navigating on interactive maps and to have access to all the types of sources relating to one site, one building, one plot by one click. For example, notarial records. Notarial records are connected to Time Machine from the period of the First World War. Because we were able to finance it from a First World War related project, and that's how we amend the content of Time Machine step by step. Architectural plans and, for example, flat data sheet is quite a well-known story, even internationally, that a big set of surveys from 1944, which were made for the preparation of the ghettoization of the Jewry, was discovered in 2015, just behind a wall in a flat, just behind the Parliament building, and this whole set of surveys are online and can be search navigating on the time machine. And photos not only from the collection of the Budapest City Archives, but georeferenced photos in the whole Hungaricana database, photo collection of the Metropolitan Library of the capital city, but even photos of Fortepan, which is a big civic photo archive initiative with more than 150,000 photos, but Hungaricana database is an inexhaustible reservoir of the development of a time machine. So summing.
One more minute, András, just.
Okay. Budapest Time Machines is an institution-based initiative integrated to Hungaricana portal and exploits the content of Hungaricana, and it is the outcome of lots of small-scale projects. These projects are, the sum of these projects are no more than a few thousand euros. It would be complicated to sum it up. And one of these was the creation of the Time Machine online platform itself. And just a few words for other stakeholders. For example, the Chamber of Public Notaries supported the building of the notarial deed database, not Time Machine itself, but an important content of Time Machine. Óbuda University, for example, uses our architectural plans to teach 3D digital modelings, and these models will also enrich Time Machine, and by these we will be able to build up the 3D image of the city step by step. And we are negotiating with the municipality of Budapest. The anniversary of the unification of Budapest, the anniversary will start in 2053. And the basic idea is inspiring local communities to discover their history, and to involve young people in exploring the history of the city. And a good example for that is how this Budapest 100, this very popular civil urban festival works. So the municipality itself considers Budapest Time Machine as an important tool for inspiring people to take part in the anniversary event. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much. This is all very interesting, and yeah, we look forward to knowing a bit more through the questions, of course. And now, as the last local time machines actually presenting, we have Léa-Marie Davignon and Johann Roduit, but I think Léa-Marie, you're the one presenting, right? About the Valais-Wallis time machine.
Thank you, Ilaria. So, hi everybody, I'm Léa-Marie Davignon, the coordinator of the Valais-Wallis time machine, and I'm here with Johann Roduit, my colleague, who is one of the administrators of the Valais-Wallis time machine. We are in Switzerland, in the Swiss Alps, in a canton. So you know that Switzerland is a federal country, and we have 26 cantons, and Wallis is one of these, and it is approximately 350,000 inhabitants in this canton. Next, thank you. Okay, so we are a particular form of time machine because we are a regional umbrella non-profits. So we federate four projects: the Sion time machine, the Verbier time machine, the Constitution time machine, and the Martigny time machine. And it all started with the LTM Sion time machine, a project of the archives of the state of Valais. And the director of the archives, Alain Dubois, decided to create this non-profit for several reasons that are, first of all, the flexibility of an association, because as you know, the processes in administration are often slow, and with a structure like this, it's easier. And also because it allows some public-private partnerships, and it's very important for the funding. And also, as I said before, it's a way to share experiences between us. Next slide, please. Thank you. About the organization, so as you can see, we are very much inspired by the TMO itself. So any institution or person can become a member, and by paying an annual fee and an entry fee, and accepting a charter, an ethical charter, essentially based on open data and open science. We now have 7 members. Public members like cities or the state of Valais, and research member like institutes and the University of Applied Sciences and Arts, Western Switzerland. And we are happy to have one new member since this year, the Martigny city, one of the biggest cities in Valais besides Sion. And it's a unique model in Switzerland to our knowledge. Thank you. And in terms of funding, the advantage of this structure is that we can do some global fund requests. We have done some requests to the public authorities, but the next step is to address the private sector. And of course, the members' fees are very important for us too. Thank you, and I leave the floor to Johann.
Hi everyone, thank you, Leah, and I will take it from there. I will present the ecosystem. So the Valais time machine, we have the association, the nonprofit is at the heart of the ecosystem, and it's about 40% like employment, and the board members are volunteer, and then the institution also volunteer. And then for the different project, there's different percentage allocated for each project depending on the size of the project. The Verbier time machine, for instance, the municipality of Bagne would have a 30% kind of project coordinator. Same for the state of Valais, 30% for the Sion time machine, 10% for the Consortium time machine. And for the municipality of Martigny, the newest member, we have to establish with them how big their project will be and what should be the percentage of the workforce. So we help those sub-projects, we help them to set up their own governance, or how they're going to work with this project, and how they can how can we share resources with the nonprofits. And then so we have in the nonprofit, we have the operational team with the key person is Alain Dubois, who's also the time machine ambassador for Switzerland, and he's the president and the chair. of the nonprofit, and he was the key person to launch the project and to bring the ecosystem together. And you've just met this morning too, Léa-Marie d'Avignon. She's the scientific coordinator, so she helped with all the science challenges for every project and helped advise all of them and bring that all together. And then for the administration and organization and communication, we have a company, Connect Limited Liability Company, that manages all of this to make sure that the nonprofit is sustainable as well. That's, I think, one of the topics we'll discuss later is how we make this project sustainable. And one thing we noticed was the need to have a team that kind of carries. And we'll see also that Anna has been carrying a lot of the work. And then the main focus, so we want to highlight and share the unique cultural, historical, and archaeological heritage of the area. I think what makes us a bit distinct maybe from others, because you mentioned in the introduction earlier that a lot of projects focus on medieval to modern times, but in Sion we want to bring the archaeological aspect, because we have, I think Sion is one of the oldest prehistoric site of Europe, with history tracing back to 6,000 BC. So we want to have bring that part in the as a focus, and encourage scientific research in the field of cultural and digital humanities. I think this is similar to all of the other ones. And we are, of course, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So make sure to follow us. And this is us, the Valais-Wallis Time Machine.
Thank you very much, Léa-Marie and Johann. These were just the aim of these presentations was just to give the audience a little bit the context about these three very different local time machines. And now we wanted to sort of bring out a few aspects that might be of interest for you. We imagine you are also all organizers, initiators, or contributors to different local time machines. So we have just a couple of questions that we think are really of general interest. So we would like to start with a sort of panel discussion on those. And then, of course, please feel free to, as I was mentioning, to ask more questions, either into the chat or at the right time. You can also just turn your video and audio on and feel welcome. So the first question that we had for our speakers, panelists today was about how to start a local time machine. So you've already given us a little bit of background, but what we hear from our community sometimes is, well, I have this project with my research group, maybe with my institution, but how do I go from my individual project to actually creating a sort of vibrant local networks? How do I connect to the right partners, and how do I give a little bit of structure and organization to all of these connections to make sure that we can actually be a lively local time machine? And I don't know if who would like to start answering. Julia, please.
I can say something about our experience. So I think it is a matter of finding partners in different domains. So in our case, we started from the university, from a research institute. But we already collaborated a lot with the City Archives of Amsterdam and other cultural heritage partners that are also have their own programs for digitization and for making accessible their collections. And I find that collaboration very useful, because you also can strengthen each other in finding funding. So for the cultural heritage partners as knowledge institutes, we provide access to the research funding opportunities. But the heritage field in turn has access to more private funds, for instance, that we as knowledge institutes cannot apply for. So I think when you collaborate and think of find common interests, this is a very fruitful strategy. And also, but remember, this takes a lot of time. So we started in 2017, and now 4 years later, I'm talking to key people in the city about a multi-year program in which we all invest some of our own resources and try to get funding for the bigger ambitions. But so it took us 4 years to get to this point that we can really say, now let's scale this up, let's make it something sustainable. So it also requires a sort of coordinator role that you persistently take because it's of your own interest, and gradually build your relationships and your network by organizing events and sharing, finding common grounds, and then eventually developing, working towards a shared agenda.
So if I can jump in here, because I think or complements kind of the approach of Amsterdam. Amsterdam, you started from a research institution, and what differentiated us in Valais-Wallis with the Valais-Wallis Time Machine is we didn't have the research institution, we didn't have digital humanities, so it was really the state archives that decided to take that on. So it's a governmental agency, and then to make it easier to navigate and bring in different partner, the State Archive decided to create a nonprofit association. And then the nonprofit association was able to bring municipalities as members and other research institutions to be part of that nonprofit. Because I think it was mentioned earlier that it's either going to be an academic, a private sector, or cultural heritage, or governmental agency that's going to have to take the lead and then kind of bring this other group together, because you will need all of those groups for sure. And then I think the challenges for a nonprofit association is a lot of it is volunteer work. So you need also to find that key person. And in Valais, we were very lucky to have Alain Dubois, who's the State Archives, and then the president of that association who carry on this work for us.
Thank you. I don't know if from Budapest you would also like to bring in your experience on this question, or
yeah, thank you. I fully agree with everything what was said. I just would like to add that if somebody wants to build a time machine without possibilities of high financing and access to high technology, it is possible according to our experience. The most basic is to have sources, to have data, and to have a conception what you want to do with your data, and you can go forward step by step, but relatively low financement, relatively low financement by one step. If you see the next step, everything, so you can reach a level with that. Then when you have real tools, a large set of data, a large set of geodata, and at that point, it is true that at that point, larger financement and higher technology would be needed. But until you reach the level when you really need high technology and larger amounts of financement, so you can do a lot with that. So we used for data processing widespread office tools and open source GIS tools. The high expertise of Arcanum was essential, for example, and scientific background. Institute of Geophysics of Artificial Laurent University provided for georeferencing. These were essentials, but we have, as you have seen, we had dozens of partners for that. A few good partners is enough for starting. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I think this is allowing us to move nicely into the next question. I had a bit in mind. This is a term that was already mentioned by, well, I think all of you already, which is the sustainability. Because of course you have started your LTM with your LTM project. You have with time and the patience and of course the right connections, the right network, you have built connections with other projects. But how to make these endeavors sustainable in the longer run? And I think here there are different aspects that can be of relevance. For instance, I do see a sort of technical element to it. So how to make sure that the way you collect your data, you manage your data is sustainable in the longer run. But also how do you build the infrastructure to make all of this possible? So this is a sort of technical aspect to the question. But then I expect there are other aspects as well that are of interest, such as the organizational one. So how many people do you need to involve at some point? What are the key figures? And then, of course, the financial aspect, which is always important. And I was wondering what's the experience of these three different LTMs in this respect. So with regards to sustainability of the endeavor.
I can start by saying that, of course, the point that Johann also made, it is very important to have a governance structure of sorts. So we will also, if we indeed manage to establish this multi-year program, it needs, since you have partners from so many different domains, which are really their own organizations with their own budgets and things, you need this kind of overarching legal entity to manage the funds that come in and to redistribute and so on. So I think that's important to have either this foundation or non-profit organization, or you should have one core player that really acts as a kind of redistributor of the money. That's also possible. And I realized, so what the Valais time machine has and we don't, is this anchoring into sort of state archives which have a core responsibility of maintaining infrastructure for this kind of endeavors. And so that's also my current problem, that I see the universities and also the other research institutes as research and innovation, research and development centers, right? We can do research, we can invent things and make data available, make prototype tooling, but then it needs to land somewhere to be sustained permanently. And of course, the universities also have their libraries. So our university library does some hosting of data sets like the Cinema Context film database, but that's not a given that they do that for free. So it's a bit depending on the collection whether they want to host it. So there, we really look at the city archives to say, well, you have this this responsibility. So we think the infrastructure part should really be hosted there. And then I look at the municipality's data office and say to their chief technical officer, but the contemporary data, you host that for the city. And we also need to make that connection. So it's also within the municipality that you have to sort of break these walls between, like, say, the archive and the data office. But I think that is really crucial for the longer term. But we just heard also in Budapest, it's true, you don't have to think, oh my God, so now I have to start a foundation and I need all the archives on board. You can also really start and get to these questions at a later stage. So starting very, very small with only some geographical anchoring, some data that you can visualize on maps and in 3D models maybe. That's already very nice start. So it's very scalable, the approach. So in Amsterdam, it's sort of growing with all these networks of partners, and now looking at a governance structure and infrastructure, but you can really start very, very small. And we have in fact a lot of volunteer citizen scientists who join our network and our meetings and come with their own reconstruction of Amsterdam Dam Square in the 17th century. They built it in 3D just as a hobby, you know. So it's more, in my view, it's also very much about starting small and gradually expanding with these different communities.
Thank you. I don't know if Johann, Léa-Marie, or András would like to add something. Léa, maybe you?
Yes.
Please.
So I totally agree with the sayings of Julia. For us, we are very lucky to have the archives in the team, and we are always up to date with the last technologies about data. Alain Dubois is a specialist, so it's very useful for us. But all our platforms are not hosted by the archives. We have also sometimes problems, not really problems, but questions about how to be sure that the data will be sustainable. Because yes, we create some platforms, and then it's the question. Does it really belong to me? Or yes, it seems to be obvious, but at the end we are sometimes not really sure. So yes, we have also to work on it. But yeah, to have the government structure in the team is obviously a big advantage for us.
If I can clarify this too, it's because we had prototype was built within a some master student did some prototype for us, and then they did it for their master studies, and then we brought those prototype in the non-profit to showcase what we can do. And now we have to like kind of resolve this, like to how we're going to keep this prototype and use this platform in the long term, and who is it going to belong to. So that's a nice challenge for us. So I'm sure we'll be able to resolve it, but it's something you have to think of. So that's what a good example from Léa. What are we gonna, who's gonna host it and own and keep it sustainable in the long term? Those are all questions that will come up when you do your projects.
Thank you. Please, András.
Our situation is quite different from both of the others. The fact that the Budapest Time Machine is so strongly connected to Hungaricana cultural heritage portal, it has advantages but has deficiencies also. It is very advantageous from the point of view of data and sources. For example, there is a big city archives behind it. It's advantageous from the point of view of archiving data and maintaining data. In the long run, we suppose that such a big archive will be able to maintain the services somehow in the long run, but it is true that Hungaricana portal itself exists in quite a complicated tissue of many different players. I mentioned that more than 100 partners. It was created to the order of the Parliamentary Library originally, and now the official editor is the Literary Museum, so it is quite complicated. So Hungaricana has a governmental structure, but the Time Machine as such has no own independent governmental structure at this moment, and this is a real problem. So no separate infrastructure, no separate government structure. The only reassuring and calming solution would be a consortium with the participation of the municipality of Budapest, it has to be done in the future. At this moment, there is no stakeholder with the pledge to maintain it in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you all of you. I just wanted to, well, we have as we see this message popping up that we will have to go back to the general room in a few minutes, but well, there was a question posted in the chat, which is actually quite technical, but maybe it can be asked to our speaker. So it's about the how to verify the accuracy of historic maps and deal with errors in them. Yeah, so would you like to respond to that question, perhaps? I think it was addressed especially to Budapest, because you were presenting about, of course, the cartography.
Yes, well, I mentioned that scientific background for georeferencing all maps is provided by the Geophysics Institute of Eötvös Loránd University. So owing to that, the georeferencing is quite exact, so we can really compare maps with different type layers with high accuracy. As far as the missing building and missing streets and so on are concerned, well, we had this problem. I mentioned that we had a First World War I project for developing time machine, but we have no detailed map, city map from the period of First World War I. Of the First World War I, so we had to use a map dated to 1912, and the city grew rapidly at that time. So of course there were quite a few streets and lots of buildings which were missing. Well, so this time layer for 1916 as a reconstructed map. The basis is the map dated to 1912, and the amendments are based on gazetteers, so address books, contemporary address books, and later maps, comparison of address books from this period and later maps. But this is a problem. This is always a problem in a rapidly growing city, because the original map I mentioned is dated to 1912, but the basic surveys were made in earlier years. So there are lots of addresses which are not existent of the map. So the only solution is compare it with later maps, and well, perhaps semi-automatization and artificial intelligence can help a lot in the future in comparing maps in large scale, but I don't think that it can be automated fully. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there perhaps, we have maybe one more minute for one last question if somebody, well, thank you to the speakers. I see from the original poster of the question. Is there one last question perhaps that someone from the audience would like to ask to our speakers? Please feel free to unmute yourself in case.
I wanted to add maybe that I fully agree with András about this expectation of automation, that for historical data will always be necessary to have humans in the loop. And this is in particular my hope for one of the components that the time machine should develop, not only technically to make this possible, this workflow of automation, but then human check and so on. So this is really a sort of research and development challenge. How do we make that work? And not only technically, but also in terms of the workflow and the process and how to implement that as a component in the time machine. How do you organize such community contributed work? So that really, yeah, I really look forward to putting that in our multi-year program.
Excellent. Well, so I guess also on behalf of the audience, thank you very much to our speakers today for bringing in their experiences. I think this was really insightful. And we want also to sort of make this the outcomes of this session a bit more concrete. So we might come up with a sort of working document and sharing a few points of recommendations coming from the project. So please stay tuned. We will for sure let you know. And now I would like to invite everyone to go back to the main room where we will just have a few minutes. We'll really try not to go over 11 a.m. for goodbyes and a few takeaway messages. So please stay with us, but in the main room for a couple more minutes.
And thank you, Ilaria, for hosting.
Of course, thank you for joining. So is everyone back here from the room 1 as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
For me, yes.
Yeah, but Antonello, you were with us in room 2, though. I saw you there. So I was wondering if the 3D, 4D room people are also back with us.
They should be, because
oh, okay.
Yeah,
Hi, Isabella. Welcome back.
Hey, but we are still in progress on the other side, on the other session.
I was wondering, perhaps we could just, if you don't mind, we could just invite everyone back here for the takeaway sort of messages, because in the other room, the discussion is closed now, and then you can continue.
Okay, so
yes,
because it's not finished yet, so and we have someone talking.
Oh, okay.
No, because I see this alert message, but I'm not sure to have understood correctly.
Yeah, so we would like to close the breakout room, also the other one, also the one where you are moderating, and for everyone to come back here so we can have. Yeah, but I think everyone is here now because I see again 70 participants. Okay, so we'll just take a couple of minutes to for sort of a general wrap up, and then if you'd like to continue the discussion on the 3D, 4D, we can just let the meeting run, and basically we can continue it here without going back to the breakout room. Does it make sense for everyone?
Yeah, I think that we can do this. Maybe not planning an half hour, but at least 15 minutes.
10 more minutes, yeah, sure.
Yeah, for us. Thank you.
Perfect. So I'd just like to take a couple of minutes for those of you who maybe really have another commitment at 11. And these are some sort of closing remarks from our side. Well, of course, a big thank you to everyone, to our speakers, to you all in the audience for joining. And we have a few sort of takeaway messages from this session. What next, basically? Of course, we think most of you in this audience have already registered your project or projects as local time machine projects on our platform. If you have not yet done so, please do it as soon as possible at your earliest convenience. This is the link. I think it will be posted in the chat as well, but otherwise you can just go on our website and click on building a local time machine and register your project. Not just that, but if you have registered your project already in the past, please remember we have this new registration form online now, and we would really like to know more about your projects in more detail, and because it will really be important to shape our offer to you, to your project, to you as a member in the coming months. So please go there and edit your projects page with more information. Then, of course, this is a message that we like to repeat as much as possible. If you are aware of other projects that could be registered, that you think fall within the scope of Time Machine in your own location or not, please invite them to register, or just let us know about them, and we will follow up and reach out to them. We want to make sure we are growing, and that's really not just about the numbers, it's also really about the how interconnected we manage to become. Then, of course, if you think you have expertise to bring into the RFC's writing process, there's a dedicated section on our website in which you can express your interest, and Daniel explained a bit how the process will be in the future. Then we are very glad that, again, local time machines are becoming a topic for research. And in that sense, thanks again to Zane Putnina for her presentation. You will receive an email from me later today with a link to take her survey. And this would really help her, but of course also us learn more about ourselves. Last but not least, you have taken this poll today, in which you have expressed your sort of availabilities in terms of expertise, but also your needs in terms of where do you perceive that Time Machine could help, the Time Machine community could help your project. Now we would like to invite you to do this, if you don't mind, right away. Again, there's a very simple way to do it, to take this super quick survey, and it's through your phone by scanning the QR code, and otherwise the link is being posted in the chat, I believe. It's really just a very simple form in which you can either select a topic area or add one of your own if you haven't done so before, and just express your interest in joining either a workshop or a working group. We will aggregate all of these results, and we will simply only use this data to make sure that we are connecting the right people to be working on these different topics. And again, thank you so much for joining and contributing to this session. We are slightly over time, sorry for this, but for those of you who really needed to leave at 11, please feel free, and otherwise I will personally really gladly stay here and hear more about the 3D, 4D as a way to bridge the past and the future.
Yeah, maybe we can take until 11:30 or 20, something like this. Just one more from my side also. Thank you all of you for your support, your participation, which is truly incredible. We are a large community, but we still have to grow, improve, and we must do it together for the future of our common heritage, that it's huge. A warm greeting to all of you, wherever you are. Also, special greeting to Jim and Timlin from Colorado, who are following us. In Colorado, it's 2 a.m., so many thanks for this support from this distance. And thanks. So we can stay here if I understood correctly, and maybe we can retake the discussion about the 3D and 4D until 20 or 30, something like this, following your availability, of course. Thank you. Okay, maybe so if I retake the fil rouge of the discussion about the 3D and 4D, we are talking just about the possibility of the collaboration with public actors in this specific development. And then what are the technical issues and open technical aspects that are still unsolved or not only, and maybe policies as we discussed, that are not already solved, we can say, about from this perspective of 3D and 4D models. Maybe Valerie, do you want to take the lead of the discussion, then we do this round of table.
Thank you, Isabella. I just wanted to come back on the discussion we had about the availability of 3D data. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but I think it's also on the ends of government policies. For example, if we consider France, we have a lot of 3D mobile. Okay, the quality is not good because it is available at the scale of the country, but we have access to very huge data set of 3D model. And the news in France is that in 3 years, in 2025, we will have at our disposal a very high resolution coverage of the French with high level, high resolution LiDAR, laser informed 3D point clouds. So maybe I'm optimistic, but I think with the spatial turn and things like that, we will have a very large data set of mapping of our territories. So it's in the hands of government, of course, but it goes like that, at least for France.
Okay, yes, there's a challenge in terms of ownership, of course. Mario, please.
I think there is no problem to get information in 3D of the existence situation. Also not for I say 10 or 20 years ago, but the problem is to get information about the formal demolished situation in 3D. So you have to co-create it when you don't have the money to do it on a professional way. But also for future, the problem is, as I told a few minutes ago, to convince architects and urban planners to put their new insights, new dreams of the future in 3D and integrate it in a 3D city model. So you cannot scan the future, you have to model it. And to with co-design, I hope we can convince the people, the citizens, to promote the professionals to collaborate also their 3D drawings for the future.
Yeah, Georgios.
Thank you. Yeah, and as I was saying, I think it's important for us to be able to distinguish the several parallel processes that lie behind this effort, and to have, like, of course, one discussion about all the technical aspects regarding data conversion, interoperability, curation, storage, etc., and access, with the GDPR involved, of course. But on the other hand, the aspect of visualization is highly relevant and important for future sustainability. And because this was part of the discussion, that the initial question, because we cannot afford, like, investing time in a product that nobody but the specialists would actually be able to use it. So in this regard, the co-development of different interfaces that would be using the same federated data sets is highly important, because we need to address the needs and the capacities of the individual groups of stakeholders or user groups that we address this. So if we're talking about the public authorities, should be the interface probably would have to be different to architects and professionals and specialists, to archaeologists and architecture historians, and so on. So for all the lay people and the public, if we want to just entice them to be interested in contributing through crowdsourcing processes. So all these different groups would require some kind of different layout of the interface, and this we experience every day, and I'm sure most of the people here would agree with me, at least those who are active in academia, that we see that people, non-experts, they don't really care about the particularities of the realism of the visualization, how photorealistic the visualization is. Okay, so investing most of the resources in developing a highly photorealistic representation that would run online, but would not make any real difference to our targeted audience, wouldn't make any sense, wouldn't be very efficient use of the resources.
Georges, I totally agree with you. Target groups and identifying the target groups is of crucial importance. So differentiating between the different visitors of what we visualize.
Yeah, this is interesting because we can have this idea of differentiating data into layers, right? And web applications according to uses and therefore policies. This is the very important concept that we have to understand. And then probably also deciding which layer is the most promising for developing funding, for example, funding efforts, because of course there's someone interested more in archaeology, but it cannot have financing by this way because it's quite complicated, and maybe developing the layers on the present and for the future planning. This could be more promising for looking for funding. So this is interesting, this idea that we can have a sort of multi-layer approaches in which we have the total, we have the whole city, the whole territories, but that we can also segment this in problems and in the applications and different data knowledge layers. For come back quickly to the starting point of our discussion concerning the ownership of data. This is, I think, that is the crucial point, because just for give you a sort of overview, the law permitting acquisition, sharing, and display is not unified at European level. So there's no today a common rule for manage this. And there's some areas in which this is not allowed. Even the only acquisition, take, for example, Venice. Okay, we cannot do a leader scan or a capture by drones, or also a sort of photogrammetric campaign more in depth, because it's not allowed for specific rule concerning only the city of Venice, for example. This is interesting because open the fact that maybe true good practices, that through a good example of research, we can try also to contribute to define good policies in an European perspective, and not only for some use case available for some use case particularly. Take just to a quick reminder to the fact that I don't know how many people know about the history of Google Earth, but if it wasn't for Al Gore making this access public, we wouldn't have the representation that we have now. This is interesting because it's a political decision about open this type of data and produce some of common share of common share web application, which we can bring all this data, all these elements, and work on this connection about all these 3D and 4D models that for now, fortunately, are segmented, fragmented, separated, and so on. Maybe something more with collaboration with museums and citizens. Do you have, because I see the example of Toine and Simon, that so they worked a lot with the museum for not really professionalism application for spreading sort of escape game access to the data. There's someone else that work with patrimonial institution directly, maybe Georgios also, or Mario Valeri, of course, with the National Archives of France. What are the experience of this collaboration between the academic world and patrimonial institutions?
Isabel, very short one is our experiences so far is that you have to be very cautious because what we did in Utrecht is we decided not to host the data any longer at the university, but to move the hosting to the Utrecht archive. And that was a brilliant move because in that way we showed we are not as a university kind of pushing this whole time machine idea onto the municipality of Utrecht.
Okay, interesting. There's but in any case, you have a good experience. It has been an experience of, yeah. And also, Georgios, for your archaeological development concerning these specific parts of your research, it was a good experience also. Okay.
Yeah, it was a great experience with the Municipal Museum because it was, of course, due to the particularities of the case of Nicosia being a divided city, to be able to reunify the city and all its monuments in a visualization that would reconstruct the whole of the city in its totality was, of course, a very catchy and interesting topic for everyone here. So yeah, the Municipal Museum was very supportive, and this is why they included it in their permanent collection for all the visitors to be able to use it as an introduction to their learning of the history of the city. However, my experience, again, in the context of the sustainability aspect of our discussion today, is that such museums cannot really provide all the necessary funding for the resources for the development of this kind of visualization. So you need to either have your own funding or to combine fundings from different activities, because unfortunately, as everybody knows, these are very resourceful processes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a proof that more in this sector, potentially we need a sort of bridge with the companies, with the private sector, right? So for shift from an academic development and environment in which we are patrimonial institution involved, but then we need to bootstrap for a professional web access or something more, and this it's the occasion for including in the discussion, the development, some private actors. Two reasons that I cannot see them, maybe Ferdinand, and then Ilaria. Of course, we can close. Maybe less remarks with Ferdinand.
Yeah, wanted to add that we are working in Germany mainly with the libraries. And we experienced that you cannot come with an idea, but you already have to have something implemented, or you have something that you can show to them. And then they get fixed to the idea, they like the idea, and then it gets possible to get into these institutions. And also what we experienced, we can set up, for example, our software in these institutions, but then we're having the same problems as Georgios already said. we set up a state there, a fixed state from a point in time, and then they would need a developer to further develop the application and add something to the application. And that mostly lacks for funding. So they don't have the funding to have a developer only for this kind of application, because they're having so many other things to do in these libraries.
Yeah, right. Okay, many thanks to all of you. So I look forward to seeing you again in the discussion in the RFCs on 3D F4D, because we need to join the efforts. And okay, so we will leave. Caroline, I know that there's the General Assembly at 30. We'll leave and this discussion, and thanks again. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much to our speakers.